Big shout out to the anxious massive. Absolutely no one's at fault here, but I know a few of you will relate to this. Over the last month there has been a group responsibility in my life that I'm a part of, and it wasn't altogether a to B to C thing to overcome, and I wasn't actually in the driving seat because it required some paperwork, but you know, I was more than willing to get involved. And more time passed and there was a deadline involved, and the deadline passed and this responsibility still hadn't been honoured. I spent every waking hour with it at the forefront of my mind. I felt terrible. I was thinking the world was going to end because we hadn't clubbed together and done this thing. And you know, I even communicated with people involved and said, look, I'm happy to do this, I just need the paperwork. As I say, there's no criticism, but more a explanation of anxiety versus people who don't seem to have any concept of the fact that other people are anxious, you know. Got to the day where it was an inevitability, we all faced up to it, and my anxiety was just off the chart. Just wanted it over and done with. I wanted it to be tomorrow, you know that feeling. And when we all got together, somebody said, right, I'll do this thing that we need to do. And I said, okay, right, all we need is the details. And somebody looked me square in the eyes and said, well, you've got them. And such is the nature of my mind with regards to not just being anxious, but even preempting it. I knew exactly where those forms were and who had them in their possession. And it just struck me, this situation has plagued my life for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Haven't been able to do anything about it. I even offered to do this sooner, but a person involved said, no, I'll happily do it. Still, my anxiety reigned supreme. But when it came to that moment where that piece of paper was needed, the person didn't even know where they were, or if they thought they were in someone else's possession. And it just struck me, because you immediately have alarm bells go off where you think somehow that person is negligent or at fault. No, they're just a person getting on with life, and they don't let the kind of bureaucracy and nightmares that plague some of our kind of lives, us guys, they don't let it get to them. But that really struck me. For all those weeks I've been thinking, I just want this sorted out, don't want this nightmare in my life. And at this point in time, anxiety just seems to be an absolutely undefeatable foe, if you know what I mean. Hiya.
And you keep going.
And what do you do? It really does seem to me that this is here for the mainstay. It's been there for my entire life. It's only at this point in my life that I'm realising that anxiety has been a bedfellow of mine since day one. I can see the reasons why it got its claws into me and what situations led to it being a lot worse. But I honestly can't imagine living without it. In the sense, that sounds like a pining sense of a sort of statement you'd make to a lover you don't want to lose. But trust me, I want anxiety dead, buried and gone. But I can't ever see it happening. It's so ingrained in me. The overly used spiritual cliche associated with the word mindfulness is something that I think about a lot. I know that my problems with anxiety are now associated with me having a recognised illness. It's very strange to be able to say that, but it's true. My mind isn't functioning in a healthy fashion when it comes to my perceptions of anxiety. But I'm blown away by other people's confidence, the way in which they seem to go through life with little or no perception of how other people may be perceiving their acts, their words, the way that they're so willing to overstep what I consider boundaries. If somebody does that directly to me, I'm very quick to react and put a stop to it. But am I confident in that? My God, no. It makes me feel utterly terrible. But it does put me in mind of my own actions on a constant basis. I find myself trying to drop off the edge of the precipice of selfishness with regards to living with people and how I react to situations, and not getting angry and self-righteous on principle because something is a law which hasn't been questioned in God knows how many years, that says I'm right and they're wrong. You know, it doesn't mean that it's sort of morally correct, as it were. I really do try and be mindful, but it is a bit like going to an orgy and sitting in the corner and reading a book. You know, what point are you making by not joining in with the crowd? I guess that our own sense of self-worth is wrapped up in all this, and maybe we don't want to be involved. There's nothing wrong with being involved in the orgy, it just isn't for us. I just find that the levels to which I have always, and as I say, I don't think it will ever stop, I've always analysed my behaviour and I've always been anxious. I do wonder what is going on inside other people's heads who would be considered healthy, dealing with life, getting out there and just living it. You know, whereas me, just a daily trip to get some essential shopping is like a trek to the Antarctic, with how difficult I find even those most distant of interactions that you have to deal with in such adventures, you know. I just want to be a voice that people might chance upon, that they recognise. There are so many people out there who they don't necessarily want help. I don't want help. I just want to be able to get through this life unscathed and to have enjoyed it to the best of my abilities on a near constant basis. But that isn't possible. And I want other people who feel the same to be able to at least be able to chance upon someone else who's speaking a language that they understand. Everybody who tends to speak with any authority on subjects of mental health is generally a person who's had 6 years training at medical college. And as with those people that, do you remember we used to have them at school, a person who'd been through something, you know, they'd been to prison, taken drugs, been an alcoholic, they would come and talk to the school, and they had such a warmth in their words that made the kids laugh. It got them attentive. They wanted to befriend that person. They're important characters. I'm not suggesting I am that person, but I know that anybody who's been in the position that I'm in will recognise. Now, forgive this arrogance, because you cannot bestow such accolades upon yourself, but I think people will recognise my sincerity. I feel very drawn to want to talk about this subject because I do have no filter. It's one of the ironies of being so anxious in life, but not really having much concern for the depth that unites us all. Those things that we all think behind the scenes, as it were, you know, those things that we all think and feel when we're on our own. I have no embarrassment in the depths to which I'm willing to plummet within those subject matters. I just want a better world for everybody, and as trite and as naff as that sounds, it's the God's honest truth. Nothing but love.